Miracle at Camp Friendship, Chapter 8. The Hooting. I opened my eyes with a start. It was dark and the place was unfamiliar. I didn't know where I was, but someone was calling my name. Pudge, Pudge, the voice called in a sharp whisper. Then I remembered. This was Camp Friendship. I was sleeping with my friends in a lodge in the middle of the woods. Whose voice was that? Acey's? Booker's? Wake up, the voice called again with emphasis. I still wasn't awake enough to answer. I had to get my senses about me first. Raising myself just a little on one elbow, I blinked and looked around. The old pot-bellied stove still glowed warmly, but that was the only light, except for what came through the window. There, I could see the moon was still playing tag with the clouds, and it still had that hazy ring around it. Ronnie was whispering hoarsely, "Somebody you are, Pudge." I turned toward the voice. I couldn't see a face. It was too dark, but I whispered back, "What's the matter? You're going to wake up the others." "I don't care," he said desperately, but still whispering. "Listen, do you hear that?" Although I was still groggy, the way he said "listen" made me take notice. What had Ronnie heard? Why was he so frightened? Suddenly I was fully awake and listening. I heard a soft scratching on the roof. I stiffened a little, then relaxed and lay back on the cot. The sound was familiar. "It's just some tree branches scraping against the roof and side of the lodge," I explained. "That's all. Go to sleep." "No, not that," he said emphatically. Before he could say more, an eerie goosebump-raising sound pierced the air. It was something between a hoot and a howl. Whoo! Whoo! A big chill went up my spine. I recognised that sound. I'd heard it once before when I was visiting Grandfather Resource on his houseboat. I didn't like it then, and I liked it even less now in the dark woods and lodge. Only one creature made that sound. It was a big-eyed, mysterious old hoot owl, and it was nearby. I wriggled down deeper into my sleeping bag. Ronnie was scared, and I didn't know how much help I'd be. I pulled the edge of my sleeping bag tightly up to my chin. "It's only an owl," I said, trying to sound as calm and brave as possible. In the darkness I thought I heard a gulp. I couldn't see them, but I was sure Ronnie's eyes were as big as tennis balls. I swallowed hard and rambled on. "I saw a stuffed one in a museum once. They live in many forests, but they also live near the river where Grandfather ties up his houseboat. That was where I first heard one." I hoped that would be some comfort to him. Then, for some reason, I added, "They only come out at night. In the daytime they sleep." "At night, huh? What do they eat?" asked Ronnie. Why did he have to ask that? "Mice and other rodents. That's what Grandfather said." Where we were, inside the lodge, the only sound to be heard was soft snoring. But from outside we could still hear, every few moments, that clear, baleful "whoo, whoo." It was unearthly, and I felt another chill. I knew Ronnie was frightened. I was his buddy, and I was supposed to help him. "An owl won't hurt you," I said, as much to myself as to Ronnie. "The sound is creepy, and it certainly was. But he can't get inside. You're trying to go to sleep. I'm right here, and so are Mr. Friendson, Pastor Gentle, and Mr. Thriftmore." "Whoo! Whoo!" There it was again, and it sounded even more creepy. The hair on the back of my neck stood straight up. "That owl is scaring me, Lord," I softly prayed. The Lord is wonderful. When we know him, we can call on him any time. He is just waiting to help us. Not always in the way we want him to, but in the way that is best for us. At that moment, I wanted the owl to go away, but the Lord did something better for me. Immediately, I remembered the verses we had read in devotions just a few hours earlier. Fear not, for I am with thee, and fear not, I will help thee. I took a deep breath and felt better. God's promises were true, and no hoot owl could change that. Why should I be afraid? I wasn't alone. God was with me. He was watching over me. Yes, it was good to know the Lord. Then a not so pleasant thought struck me. Ronnie did not know the Lord. He could not claim the promises of God as I could. That was the reason he was afraid, and I couldn't make his fear go away. I wanted to be a good buddy, but what could I do? Are you afraid too, Pudge? Ronnie's voice was weak and trembling. What do you do when you're afraid? He asked. Then I knew what I could do to help him. It was important that I give the right answer, and again I asked the Lord to help me. I think about my favourite verses of Scripture, and I pray. Do you want to know the Lord too, Ronnie? I asked quietly. Ronnie was still for a few moments. I waited for him to say something. He was obviously thinking very hard about this. He was struggling not only with his fear of the hoot owl, but also with the idea of giving his life to the Lord. Finally he said, No, not now. I have to think some more about it. Maybe tomorrow I'll talk with Pastor Gentle. Thanks, Pudge. I'm glad you're here, and I'm glad I picked you for my buddy. I was glad he had picked me too. It had given me an opportunity to talk with him about the Lord, and I was thankful for the hoot owl. God has all kinds of ways of letting us know He loves us. Whoo! Whoo! There was that haunting call again, but it wasn't scary for me anymore. God had used that old hoot owl to help me know the power of His word, and to Ronnie it was his voice saying, Come unto me. I was almost asleep when I heard Ronnie's soft trembling whisper from the next cot. God, I'm afraid. Help me to go to sleep and not be afraid. Tomorrow I'll ask Pastor Gentle what I need to do so I can know you and not be afraid any more. Finally, Ronnie realizes he needs the Lord, I thought. Hooray! Hooray! I prayed that he would remember and that he would talk with Pastor Gentle the next day. I peacefully dropped off to sleep. So did Ronnie.